Hello viewers, how are you? Today I am at Pakistan in Islamabad, the capital city of the Pakistan, and one of my oldest friend, more than maybe 35 years old. We have been studying same institute. I have been mastering and majoring in the Japanese, and he was learning the German language. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you, sir? Genki desu ka? So my friend IMTIAZ GUL is with me. He's a senior journalist. Moshi moshi. He can speak Japanese. Ohayo gozaimasu.
Just a little bit.
Just a little
That
bit.
was it.
Everything good. So, Mr. IMTIAZ GUL, I think we are meeting long time. Whenever you come to Japan, we have been meeting, and it was long time we couldn't meet you. So, what's your feeling about Japan? Many times you come for meeting ambassadors, covering a lot of stories there.
Oh yeah, when somebody asked me about Japan,
Yeah.
how is it?
How is
I
it?
said clinically clean.
Clinically clean.
So much
Hygienically, clinically clean.
clinically clean. And recently, I was in Canada and we saw something. So my son had installed something in the washroom, and when it's recently introduced, the Muslim shower type of thing.
Muslim shower.
But then I told him that the Japanese had been using it for decades.
More,
For the
yes.
first time we used that, we saw that in the hotels. It was in 2001 when I visited Japan for the first time.
Nice.
So Japan, I have very fond memories also, because in 2011 I had a scholarship or fellowship of the International House of Japan, Japan Foundation.
Yeah.
We spent 3 months there.
Yeah.
And that was a lovely time we spent.
Yeah. So, Mr. IMTIAZ GUL, I think a lot of the Japanese media, he's actually writing article, and a lot of the Japanese, media is publishing your articles. And last month I was reading, your observation is very, deep eyes about this, the foreign policy of Pakistan or Japan, or like American Pakistan public relation or diplomatic relation. So, Mr. GUL, I would like to ask you that you have been giving interview to the Al Jazeera and a lot of international medias. So, what is your feeling that now the situation in Pakistan and America, or like Japan, what kind of the foreign policy? What do you feel about this?
Pakistan's foreign policy?
Yes.
Well, Pakistan's foreign policy has been a mix, of successes, of failures, of blunders. So this has been like a roller coaster of foreign policy, just because Pakistan happens to be in a region where it is surrounded by 2 countries which are sort of hostile, and I think since the very beginning, since 1947 when Pakistan came into being, Pakistan has had this misfortune of dealing with a country from which it was broken away and created as a new state, and then to the west of it is Afghanistan, and Afghanistan has been now in a state of conflict for more than 40 years, and this is what also defined Pakistan's foreign policy, and whatever Pakistan today is because of that foreign policy, because of the geopolitical factors that sucked Pakistan into those international conflicts, and as a result the Pakistani foreign policy has mostly been tactical, not really strategic.
Tactical, not realistic.
Not strategic, and that's why I think there have been many problems, and that's why I think that the relationship with a country like Japan must have been way above where it is today, and that is also because of geopolitical factors.
Yeah, actually, Mr. GUL, I am also part of the international, we have a journalist club, international press club. So a lot of, international media, more than 80 countries, we are get together every month and exchanging the information and talking. They always asking me, Mr. Mughal, we want to know about your Pakistan. What is Taliban? What is Punjabi Taliban? What is the Afghan Taliban? What is the Balochis Taliban? What is Indian Taliban? So they call it so kinds of Taliban in Pakistan. So how do you define? So it's difficult for me to explain them. So would you please explain a little bit about this?
Yeah, I know Taliban, they basically emerged in Afghanistan originally, and then they extended their influence into Pakistan as well. That was in the mid-90s, because earlier they were the Mujahideen, supported by the American CIA, by the British MI6, by the Japanese also, because the Americans were supporting those Mujahideen against the Soviet Union at that time. But once the Soviet troops pulled out of Afghanistan in February 1989, and then the Americans, went away. There was a lot of civil war erupted in Afghanistan, and out of that civil war, we saw the birth of the Afghan Taliban. And they also then influenced a lot of people in Pakistan's tribal areas. So they became to be known as the Pakistani Taliban. And the same Taliban then also went to the Kashmir. The Kashmir,
they call it Kashmiri Taliban.
Yeah, so they were not Kashmiri, they were Punjabis, they were Pashtun Taliban. But they went in, initially they were Mujahideen.
But because of that, a lot of this international terrorism or internal terrorism, a lot of groups has been born. And especially, what we are looking from Japan, that China has very influence about the Gwadar, and there's they call it BLA, Balochistan Regiment Army, or Liberation Army, or Sindh Liberation Army. What is this another kind of group?
Well, now you're moving to the southwest of Pakistan. So the northwest and southwest we had Taliban, and then in the southwest we had these Baloch groups. We call them secessionist groups. They themselves call themselves as nationalist groups who want an independent, autonomous Balochistan. They are asking for more rights for Balochistan, which is area-wise the largest province of Pakistan, almost 44% in area. But the population is minuscule. So these groups emerged over a period of time, particularly the situation after 2006 became very critical when one of their veteran leaders, Nawab Bukti, was killed in very mysterious circumstances. So it gave rise to the fifth insurgency in that province, and out of that insurgency then grew many groups, which is the Balochistan Liberation Army, Balochistan Republican Army, Balochistan Liberation Front, and then all these groups formed an alliance which was called BRAS, BRAS. And out of BRAS now we have two more.
What is the definition? Balochistan?
This is an acronym for Baloch name. Balochistan Rajwi is something. So it's a very complicated. But then out of that we see now the emergence of another terrorist group. I would say terrorist group because they claim responsibility for attacks in Karachi in Lahore early this year. And they are also supported by they are in alliance with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. And that is now something different that we are dealing with. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is apparently a proxy terrorist group. They use the name of Islam, they use the name of Sharia. They say they want a Sharia Islamic state, but the actual motive is something different. It's destruction and instability, I would say, because it's a very small group and they cannot really hope. They cannot really even think of capturing the state of Pakistan. This is what people abroad should also understand. Pakistan, in population, is the sixth largest country in the world. Area-wise, it is the seventh or eighth largest country. It is nuclear-armed Pakistan. It has nuclear weapons.
It is not easy way to capture.
So anybody who starts thinking of starts developing this idea, buying the idea of the TTP, any non-state actor capturing the state of Pakistan, that is ridiculous. But they are a proxy terrorist group out for creating instability, and this is evident in our daily lives. The border areas which are close to Afghanistan, and we have a border 2,560 kilometer long border with Afghanistan. So in those border areas there are terrorist incidents almost every day in which security personnel, soldiers, militiamen, they are killed. Sometimes they are ambushed, sometimes they are they hit the mines, landmines, and this is what is happening every day. So this is what leads us to conclude that they are a terrorist group and they just want to create this impression of an unstable Pakistan delivering bricks to Pakistan. So this is what people abroad should also understand, that while there are a lot of complaints, legitimate complaints by Baloch people, but these complaints are being used by certain powers, external powers, to destabilize Pakistan, to create conditions which project Pakistan and Balochistan as an unstable, unsafe country. And TTP is doing the same in the northwest, and in the southwest these Baloch groups are doing that.
So it's a very deep observation about it, because he's a researcher and he's a writer, he's doing a lot of things. So I thought better to ask by him. So I think lots of my journalist friends from UK or America, your answer is here. So Mr. GUL, I will ask you later about how the situation now, the Pakistan just, facilitating to the Afghanistan, now they got freedom, American has gone back. What is the future about Afghanistan and Pakistan relation?
It's $1 billion question. I wish I had the answer. I wish I had the crystal ball to see through as to how the Taliban will react in the 6 months down the lane. But generally, the Taliban who are ruling Afghanistan right now, they are very rigid people, very radical in their view, in a worldview, extremely hardline practicing Muslims, and they think, they relate their victory in their view to the victory of Mecca, the way Prophet Muhammad had conquered Mecca like 1500 years ago. And this is something worrying, because they say they are above advice from anybody else. They are not listening to the most of the demands that is coming from countries like Japan, Germany, Pakistan, Russia, or China, or America, as far as the women education, women employment, women's rights are concerned. So that is a worrying aspect. But they have managed in over 1 year after returning to power, or after seizing power in Kabul, to prevent an implosion of Afghanistan. Because the fear was that once the Taliban come in, because of the international sanctions, because of infighting, they will have a difficult time, the economy will collapse. But this has not happened. They have kept Afghanistan together. There is no infighting. All the opposition groups, most of them have been marginalized. There is, of course, social and economic unrest, because there is not enough livelihood. The sanctions on Taliban regime continue. The Taliban are still under the United Nations sanctions. Many of their leaders cannot travel because of those sanctions. The American sanctions are still in place, and this means that whenever the Afghan Taliban want to travel outside, they have to seek the permission, and one of these 5 permanent security members have to certify and guarantee that these guys are traveling, and let them go. So this is a big obstacle in their way, and the other obstacle is the economic sanctions. And how long will these economic sanctions continue is not sure, but we are a little optimistic after the American government now has allowed the unfreezing of part of the funds that the American government has been holding on to. It's about $8 billion, and half of it will now come through Switzerland, I think, that they are using now a Switzerland bank. So that money goes in there, and then it will be channeled into Afghanistan's national bank, allowing Taliban a little free hand. But the major obstruction still is the inability of Afghanistan's businessmen to transact their deals internationally. They cannot do anything internationally. For that, they have found different ways. The third party, they are using their assets in Dubai, in Istanbul, in other countries. But you're asking about the chances.
Yes.
I would say we should stay optimistic about Afghanistan, and accept the people who are ruling Afghanistan as they are. Just because you cannot wish them to change overnight. It will take time. International engagement is very necessary to mold the Afghan Taliban, to bring them out of their rigid mindset. If they don't, then obviously the international community will lose interest in engaging Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's great. So one question more, Mr. Ghul. This is a foreign policy, especially Pakistan has an alliance with America and a friendship with China. How we can make balance about this? This is a democratic country, and there is a what do you say, socialist or communist country, and Pakistan, what do we call it, Islamic country. What kind of this is the political thought, the system? How can Pakistan balance it?
Well, when it comes to interests. Then it doesn't matter whether a country is Islamist or communist or socialist. I mean, look, Saudi Arabia is the ally of the United States.
You're right, yeah.
They are the allies of the UK. The UK has a number of advisors for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia actually employed a number of British advisors. And then they have had good relations actually with a number of other Muslim countries. Not with socialist countries, but former socialist countries, yes, the Americans tried to embrace them. Like they're still trying to quote Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, just because they want to play these countries against Russia. So let's keep this the branding of a country separate from geopolitics. Whether it's an Islamic socialist country, it doesn't matter when it comes to geopolitical interests. And that's why even if a lot of Americans wouldn't like Pakistan, they look at it as a country which has been supporting militants. But they still engage with Pakistan just because they need Pakistan.
They need Pakistan.
And they also want to nudge Pakistan away from China. So there's a contest going on between China and the United States, to pull Pakistan towards their side. But how can Pakistan balance that? It's a very difficult situation for Pakistan. And the current political turmoil that we see in Pakistan, which started in March this year and which culminated in the exit of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, is also directly related to this tussle between China and the United States, because Pakistan had started tilting a little bit towards China. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan had very categorically said that our economic future is tied to China. So this is said repeatedly, and apparently the Americans didn't like it. Many European countries also didn't like it. But I think now the Indian government has made it very clear, abundantly clear, and this is where our Japanese friends in Japan, in the media, in the government, and other friends elsewhere should also consider Pakistan. How? The Indians were repeatedly told not to go for the Russian gas or Russian oil, but the Indians dismissed those recommendations by Anthony Blinken, the American Foreign Secretary. Standing next to the Indian, to Anthony Blinken during a press conference, Jaishankar, the Indian External Affairs Minister, said that we do things according to our own national interest, and we'll do whatever it takes to serve our national interest rather than listening to somebody else. So this is something very instructive, I think, for everybody.
I see. Okay, Mr. GUL, I think this is I want to talk a long interview, but it's going to message most of the Japanese Japanese
they should be getting bored, actually.
No. They
don't want to bore them with too much detail, right?
No, I got it. No, it will be going the two part. One is for the medical and media part, and now part is going to be entertainment part.
Achha.
So, any message to the Japanese people? You have been there and you want to talk to them and about Pakistan-Japan diplomatic relation. How do you feel it? This is going to be 70th anniversary of the Pakistan-Japan diplomatic relation.
Yeah, I wish the Japanese foreign policy would have been a little more independent of the United States. I know the American troops are still there in Okinawa. I visited Okinawa also. It was very nice to be there. But I had the impression that the Japanese, because they are also part of Quad, they are also part of other alliances.
That's right.
So that is what makes people a little uncomfortable in a country like Pakistan. So the message to Japanese people, they're very nice people. I have very fond memories. I enjoyed my 3-month stay there back in 2011, went again there in 2013. I have a couple of Japanese friends, very nice people. And actually, my message, a lot of what I learned as a journalist, I learned from Japanese.
Wow.
So this is because Japanese are very inquisitive
Yes,
people.
yes, you have been working.
So
with
they
them
keep
and-
asking questions.
A lot of.
So there was a lot of learning from my Japanese journalists, because I work with the NHK.
Yes, yes, you
For
came there.
8-9 years until 9/11
Yes,
actually.
yes.
And NHK had their office in my office
Yes, yes.
when 9/11 happened.
And
For
they
three-
invited you. You was visiting our office.
yeah,
You
for
were
3
getting
months they were in
experience.
my office. All the
Really?
people. I also had some disputes with the Japanese senior bosses because I didn't know the cultural sensitivities. But still, they are very large-hearted. They acknowledged me as the man with the knowledge of the area. So they respected me, and they actually asked me themselves if I want to continue with them, and I said no, thank you very much. This has been because I had my own priority. So my regards to all Japanese.
Yeah.
You're lovely people, and hope to be visiting Japan very soon when
Yes.
Humayun Khan again convenes a press conference, or
Yes,
media
yes.
conference, or any
Yes,
conference.
yes.
I would love to be there again. Thank you.
Yes, so viewers, I think it was a nice talk. We're going to give information because there's a little bit political talk, but I think a lot of question you are asking me in Japanese, I couldn't answer it. That's why I put that question to him. I think he's given a lot of good answer. And later maybe I will put you this with Japanese translation and interpretation. You will understand for the Japanese media too. His article is published in the Nikkei Shimbun and many Japanese newspaper. Most of the Japanese media respect him very full. He's a very respectful journalist from Pakistan, not from Japan, even the international media. So thank you very much, IMTIAZ GUL Sound. I hope to see you again. Welcome to Japan, sir.
I will.
Welcome to Japan.
Okay.
Sayonara.
Sayonara. Sayonara.
Thank you.